Welcome to a Pneuma conversation, a raw, authentic, and unfiltered conversation with spiritual teachers, leaders, coaches, healers, and seekers. Get to know who we truly are, beyond the polished world of interviews, social media, and podcasts. We are human, we struggle too. Join us in real conversations that heal, transform, and inspire. These are the conversations that remind us what it means to be alive. Today, we're in conversation with Christine Tracy. Christine, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here this morning.
And I'm so happy. You and I both have been looking forward to this conversation. There's just this unspoken connection that you and I have, and in the weeks that we've been communicating with email, I have felt your energy through every single email and the excitement to have this conversation. So I'm so looking forward to this. So thank you.
Thank you. And my favorite word for this experience is resonance.
Yes,
That we have a resonance
we do.
that makes everything easy
It
and open and free. And, you don't. Right. I love the opening to this
Yeah.
conversation that
Oh,
this is real life.
yeah. Yeah.
Not, we don't need to hide or
No,
protect or pretend.
that's it. So just get us started a little bit. Who is Christine? There's so much to you, so much about you. There's so much that you do, but who is Christine?
Um, Christine, the thing I'm proudest of the most of who
Mhm.
Christine is I'm a grandmother.
Ah,
I have
beautiful.
four beautiful grandchildren that live close enough that I see them often. And that also means that I'm old enough to be a grandmother. I'm 70 years old
Oh
and
no.
I've lived a lot of life. I've lived in different parts of the country. I started out in New Jersey, not
Hmm.
that far from Manhattan.
Yep, yep.
I have an identical twin sister,
Okay.
right? My grandmother and my aunts, my maternal aunts, were allowed to call me Chrissy.
Okay.
Nobody else, just grandma. All right. I was Christy Liggis, who grew up in Clark, New Jersey. And one of the gifts of my life as I look back, right, and is the Catholic education that I received.
Yeah.
All right. I walked to St. John the Apostle Grammar School in Clark, New Jersey, just like a half a block from my house. We wore uniforms. We were taught
Hmm.
by the Dominican nuns. I went to Mother Seton Regional High School for girls in Clark, New Jersey, which was really a powerful experience because I became disciplined in studies.
Okay.
I was a disciplined student, I think, because of that education. I also have really beautiful cursive handwriting that I'm
Oh,
very proud of.
I love cursive writing. We don't teach it anymore in schools, from what I hear.
No, and
Yeah.
I'm a writer and a
Yeah.
journaler.
Yes.
When I write, I like what I see. I like the way when the ink touches the paper,
Mm.
what it looks like. And then I went to Catholic college. I went to Villanova University where I got a scholarship. And I was actually there at the same time Pope Leo was there.
Oh, wow.
Both
Okay.
graduated in 1977, and I often went to Mass in the beautiful St. Thomas of Villanova Cathedral. It's
Mhm.
like a mini cathedral on the campus, and I met at 6 o'clock on Sunday night. And imagine maybe we were in Mass together some Sunday.
Wow. Wow. So you and I have many connections, and some of them I'm not aware of them yet. But just to highlight a few, one of our connections is we are both part of the Teilhard Association. That's where we know each other. But also, I am from Pennsylvania, and I'm clo originally close to from Philadelphia, so I know the
Hmm.
colleges you've been to in that area. I also lived in northern New Jersey for a time and
Oh,
also in Manhattan. So I know all these places that you're talking about and you've written a book, a memoir recently. And so when you were talking about all these places, your schooling and the places you live, I was all the more I was able to follow along with you because I knew exactly where you were talking. I could see it in the, see these places in my mind. But yeah, the connections that we have that we didn't even know until recently is just, oh, it's incredible. And
yeah,
those are just a few.
yeah, and I feel that too. And
Yeah.
perhaps the most profound connection is our commitment to the breath.
Yes.
That, you mentioned my book, and in the period of writing it, it took 5 years really of
Yeah.
from the decision that to write a memoir to it's
Yeah.
being done. But the last couple years, I was truly supported by regular breath work that I did,
Mm,
conscious breath work with at Una Vida yoga studio in nearby Niwot with
okay.
my teacher Alani. And that's where the title of the book came. And
Mm,
I felt, especially in times when I felt confused or just all wrinkled out by life.
yeah.
I'd just lay there for an hour and I'd come back and just feel renewed, like
Mm,
taking a shower
yes.
inside of you, right? Like a cleansing shaking you out and standing you up again and saying, okay, you're ready for another week.
Yes. Having issues over here. But yes, that's exactly what the breath does. I see it with the clients I work with, and just the other day, someone I was with, um, I could literally see the breath transforming her body in
Mhm.
real time because she was giving space for the breath to do what it naturally does in our bodies.
Right,
Because we
right.
don't do that, Um, your first responders, they have this criteria that they're doing in their heads right as they're, you know, um, getting to the scene of the accident. And one of those is, are you breathing? And
Yeah,
it's the same thing I do. When people are telling me their story, I'm listening to how often they breathe. And it's amazing how often they're not,
right. And
especially
the
if they're in trauma.
and the unconsciousness of holding our breath, right? And when we don't even realize we're holding our breath, and the
Yeah,
metaphor of what that means, what we're cutting
yeah,
ourselves off from.
yeah. And I was just doing it a minute ago as I was saying all that. I was forgetting to breathe because I'm so excited to, you know, for this conversation. So, well, let's start with your book. Just Trust Life is the name of it. What a beautiful, beautiful title. And as you know, I say just trust the breath.
Mhm.
And it's that we're saying the same thing. It doesn't matter what the language is, but we're saying the exact same thing. So, how did this memoir come to be for you?
Well, the most exciting part of being on the other side of the memoir, of being able to
Yeah.
hold it up in my hand and
Sure.
share it with other people,
Sure.
being done and all of what that took, is I've had this vision of doing this for a long time, and I didn't know how it would evolve, if it was
Sure.
possible, what it might look like. I'd been formally writing like different sections of it for a while.
Mm,
But during COVID, I actually launched into a manuscript group
okay.
and started writing, and it was a wonderful thing to be doing then. Um, but stepping back a little bit, when I was a professor at Eastern Michigan University getting tenure, I was a member of the Media Ecology Association, where
Okay.
people formally study Teilhard. So as part of my tenure documents, I also wrote um, academic pieces about Teilhard. So I've done a lot of scholarly work around Teilhard too, as a piece on the etymology of the noosphere, which took me a long time to
Okay.
write. And I think that's important because I have a theoretical and academic understanding of Teilhard's work. I'm
Right.
not a theologian. I'm not, I, I wouldn't put myself in the same place as certain people who study Teilhard, but Frank Frost did invite me to
Yeah.
be on the board of Teilhard Scholars, the
Okay.
Council of Teilhard Scholars, and I was really honored to do that. And but what the book has done in a way that I feel like Teilhard's energy took me by the hand and led me.
Okay.
Teilhard led me through my life
Mm.
is to translate those ideas, which are sometimes confusing and difficult.
Yes.
When I was getting my PhD and, attempting to read the human phenomena, I would be spending half the time flipping back to the notes to try to figure out what it was.
Yeah.
I I believe I successfully translated some of those ideas through my life because I've organically lived them now. I've
Mm.
internalized the truths that Teilhard has taught us.
Yeah.
I'm really proud to say that. There was a part of me that's like, oh, Christine, be humble. But no, I
Say
live
it.
these ideas,
Yeah.
right? The whole of life lies in seeing, and the purpose
Yeah.
of life is to develop ever more perfect eyes. What does that really mean
Yeah.
as we live our lives?
Right. I don't want to give the book away because I want people to read it, but there are a couple things I want to point out because this is not about your book, but your life is the book, so it's, we can't get away from it. Um, but I loved how you were, for me, the stories kind of overlapped. I don't know if they necessarily do that in the book, but you're you were entering a divorce, going through that divorce process, and then you were in the hospital, and big changes were happening for you at that time. And you know that just a couple weeks ago I was lying in a hospital bed and I was reading your memoir at the same place that you're sitting, laying in a hospital bed with what was going on with you. Um, but but I also had this feeling of just trusting life. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what's going to happen. But using my language, I know I'm being carried by the breath. What can you talk about that a little bit? Trusting life, what that is for you, and especially what
Yeah,
was going on in those two moments for you, if you
yeah.
can.
The it felt like, and it was a good starting place to write a memoir instead of writing about my whole life. I wrote
Okay.
about that time that I was in graduate school.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, my parents died. I gave up alcohol.
Yes.
I moved out of the house that I raised my children in. Somehow, in studying and beginning to try to understand Teilhard's teaching, I knew there was another way. I
Hmm.
knew there was another way to live.
You
Uh,
just knew it internally. You don't know how to explain,
well,
but you just
I was curious.
okay.
I was hopeful.
Yeah.
I didn't want to feel, Chad, I didn't want to feel the way I felt.
Yes.
I was scared almost all the time.
Yeah.
Right? And what really helped me understand and come to the place I'm at now and to be able to sit down and write with confidence, the book I did, was the way Teilhard lived his life.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the teachings, it wasn't just the writing. It was when I read Ursula King's biography
Okay.
of Teilhard's life and came to study and read Cuno's biography. And I have my own little Teilhard library over here. I had borrowing privileges at the University of Michigan
Hmm.
library, so I was blessed to have so much access to a lot of work about him and a lot of his own work. But I wanted, I suspected from the way Teilhard lived his life and the courageous decisions he made, and the blows he took, the fundamental blows, that there was another way.
Mm.
And I felt like if I just kept believing that, like looking up at the sky and saying, wow, like this isn't all there is something else. And if this guy could figure it out and live through some of the stuff he lived through, especially World War I, right?
Yes.
Being a stretcher bearer in World War I, then there's hope for me too. That I want what he, as we might say in the recovery community, I want what he has.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm lying in my hospital bed a few weeks ago at the time of this recording. There's some fear. I don't know what's going on. There's been health things going on in my life the last few years, ever since I had a near-death experience about 3 years ago. And I just knew. I knew it inside of me that I am going to be taken care of. And I still know that. And I've had to completely stop working in the traditional sense. And literally, for the past 7 weeks, every single week, resources and money are just coming into me. And it's truly amazing.
Yeah.
And it's everything I need. Everything. And it's from people that are saying, "Hey, I felt guided, or I felt that I needed to give this to you. I felt like you needed this right now." Or it's collaborations that are coming in, people that wanting to work with me or be on the podcast like you. And it's just all happening on its own. And I'm literally living breath by breath now.
Mhm.
I did that occasionally in my life, but I only move when the breath tells me to. Well, people will say, "Well, you got to hustle," or you that's great, Chad, but you still need to do this, and you need. No, the
Yeah.
only thing I need to do is trust.
Right.
Trust, and it happens. And but I will move when I'm guided to move. I don't move out of grasping or out of fear. I move when it's time to move. And that's what your book is about. That's what your life is about. So
Yes,
thank you.
thank you. And the words that are coming to me, and what a blessing it is for me to have words. I was one of those little children who read, under the covers with a flashlight.
Okay.
And I love books. I love words. Um, the words that are coming to me now are power and
Hmm.
and as you mentioned, presence and believing in the what we can't see.
Yes.
I believe one of the biggest gifts that Teilhard has given me and our community and where I am being on the other side of writing this book and thinking and living through these things is I understand that what we don't see is more powerful and perhaps more real and more accessible than what we do see. And
Yes.
as a scientist, Teilhard understood that in a way I am not claiming to understand. I'm not a
Hmm.
paleontologist, I'm not a theologian, but I inherently know in and believe in the power of the what's bigger than us, what connects us to everything, the transcendent, if you will. And I one of the things I have lived and has helped me live in this way is to be shown by Teilhard some of the way to do that.
Hmm.
Right? Just trusting life. Life will take you high if only you believe it's
Yeah.
going somewhere. And that's especially important through those difficult times, in those difficult moments when everything feels dark and we're really scared inside,
Yeah.
to be in alignment with this energy, right?
Yeah.
That everything is energy. And if when we work on the energy level, then we're able to write out, quite honestly, be better humans,
Yes.
be better
Yes.
human beings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, there was something you just said, and I had it, and then I forgot it. Um, oh, the dark times. We've heard so often that, especially if we're part of the very religious right, doesn't matter which religion, but especially extreme philosophies and everything, they will teach that, well, if you're having difficulty in your life, that means you're out of alignment with God, or you're sinning, or in the spiritual world, we'll say, well, that you're just out of alignment, and you know, all that kind of stuff. I am learning, and what I have always said internally, and I'm now putting voice to, it's all holy.
Mhm.
It is all sacred. There's no division. Just because I'm lying in a hospital bed doesn't mean I'm a sinner. Doesn't mean that I've angered God or the cosmos or whatever. It's part of being human. And being human is holy and it is sacred. And I think you would say the same thing.
Yeah, and one of the quotes that, and somewhere I've read this in all my years of reading Teilhard,
Mhm.
um, what if our whole life is a prayer?
Yes. Yeah.
And I actually wrote to Kathleen Duffy and to
Okay.
other Teilhard scholars to see where that quote comes from, or where that's, how to source that. And I couldn't find it. So I decided not to use it in the book.
Okay.
But I do believe that every breath, right? Every moment, all the good things, all the bad things, that they are sacred.
Yeah.
And that how we negotiate that, right? Being able to discover this bigger power, this transcendent power, to help us negotiate those spaces. One of the things that also is difficult, and I am a scholar, I worked really hard to have the book sourced properly. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? If there's a long note in the book about that from the American Teilhard Association website, where some version of that is attributed to Teilhard, but not exactly.
Okay.
In responding to what you just said about God and somewhat of a vengeful God, I was really very careful in the book
Hmm.
not to use the word God. I
Yes.
didn't use the word God because, quite honestly, I think God has gotten a bad rap.
Yep.
That we've put God, from especially in the Western civilization, into a box, and we say this is what God is, and this
Hmm.
is who you need to be close to God, and this is who you are if you're not close to God. And my attraction and love, if you will, for Teilhard and his ideas and his teachings that are so exciting that they're spreading, is that God is bigger than that.
Hmm.
I got, the one of my favorite pieces of writing the book is at the very end when I talk about the omega, right? That
Yes.
we're evolving towards omega. And a wonderful friend of mine, Chris Chandler, when she was reading the manuscript, she pushed me and said, well, what does omega mean? I don't know what omega means, right? She's a writer and a dear friend and,
Mhm.
a very educated, wonderful woman. But she said, she pressed me and to to define in a way what omega means. And to me, that means the evolutionary power of love.
Oh, wow.
And and Teilhard believed in evolution in a bigger way, and I believe that we're evolving, and this is the Just Trust Life piece.
Hmm.
In every single moment, we're evolving. And when we recognize that this power of love,
Yes.
it's the breath holding us, moving us forward, that is this power that we all have access to in every moment. And
Yeah.
it's our work to come to recognize it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I would call that it's our remembering.
Mhm.
We're
Yeah,
here to remember who and what we are and where we come from.
right,
And I would call what you just said, I would call that the remembering.
right,
Because when we remember that and we begin to live it, that's when life truly begins
right,
the way
right,
it's supposed to.
right. And it's in those, it is that belief for me, and I believe this is true for others, that in those times when it just feels like, life is crashing down around you,
Mm,
and I'm grateful that I had the courage to be as vulnerable as I did in the book about some of those moments,
mm,
right? When I found out about the infidelity in my long marriage, when I realized what I was doing to myself by overusing alcohol, and all of what that means, by being perhaps disingenuous. Like
mm.
I knew deep down I wasn't showing up as the person I intended to be, and all the shame and guilt that can just pile on you.
Yes.
Mm. Like knowing that there is something more, right? That will, like a light shining through that, and often it comes through other people.
Yeah.
It
Oh, absolutely.
through other people. Some of the brightest lights in my life are my grandchildren.
Mm.
Hold my feet to the fire to be my highest and truest self. And sometimes that's a really practical thing,
Yeah.
like changing a diaper, right?
Yeah.
And but I did dedicate the book to my grandchildren.
Yes.
They're certainly not old enough to read it or understand it. I think a good
Mm,
benchmark would be 16 for
mm,
them to read it. But I wanted them to have an easier life than I did.
mm.
That's when they're teenagers and they're struggling. And they say, well, I'll pick up grandma's book and see how she figured out this life thing. And in the dedication, I write, embrace the all and manifest ease.
Yes.
And that's the light that holds me when I'm struggling.
Could you say that again? Embrace.
Embrace the all and manifest
I
ease.
mean, I feel that right in my chest. I just love that. Embrace the all and manifest the ease. Yeah. We hear so much about manifestation. It's the new buzzword, you know. But yet when we are at this place of what I would call stillness and this place of ease, life happens with us. Everything is provided. And it's because I'm in a state of receiving. Because if you do it the way pop spirituality is doing it right now, you're coming from a place of lack.
Mhm.
You're coming from a place of I don't have that, and so I want to grasp onto what I think I don't have. But when you become still in your life, manifestation, or as I call inevitability, just happens
Right.
because it's the way life works. We think that we have to come up with another way of doing it because so many of us hate being patient.
Yes.
And the
And
reason, yeah, go ahead.
one of the things that when I'm in that moment,
Mm,
right, and I feel blessed that I recognize and slow down and stop and look at how beautiful the world is. Yesterday morning, I was sitting along the St. Vrain Creek at this beautiful, it's almost like a little mini fairy forest in Lyons, Colorado. And there's a bubbling creek, and the sun was out, and it was just glorious. The sky was bright, bright blue, and the leaves were yellow. And I did feel that unity of all things. And I have been gifted, I believe, with a near-death experience. So I do organically know and believe that there is more. And
Mhm.
I do write about that in the book. You've shared that you've had a near-death experience too. So I
Yeah.
have no doubt that this is not all there is. And then when what the more is, what the all is, what connects us to everything shines through, that reaffirms for me what it is.
Yeah.
I also study and practice shamanism
Yeah.
and
Beautiful.
have studied and practiced Reiki too. And
Yeah.
both of those practices I went to because I was in so much pain.
Mm.
I started studying Reiki with my practitioner said she was teaching classes and did I want to join and learn it? And I said yes. And it was because of great emotional pain I was in my life. And with shamanism, someone in my writing group um, decided she was going to work with someone who was an applied shamanic practitioner here, Tafane Benetti here in Boulder, Colorado. And I study with Isa Jucardi from the Foundation of the Sacred Stream. And I had been suffering from migraine headaches for almost 30 years. And I've been to multiple neurologists at different parts of the country where I was living at the time. And the gift of studying that, and I do a shamanic journey just about every day, is that I trust the guidance that comes to me.
Yes.
Trust that if I reach out to my guides and to a place of that I can't see, but I know is real, that the guidance I'll get is true. And the gift in doing that, one day, someone I love called me and said, you know, I have some bad news I'm about to share with you. And I said, well, what is it? And he said, you know, I'll call you in a little while and tell you.
Mm. Mm.
And I said, oh no, you know, he said, I'll call you in an hour and tell you. And within that hour, I reached out to my guides and said, you know, what am I going to find out? And they told me something that I wasn't really prepared to hear. And I said, no, that can't possibly be true. And they said, yes, it's true. And I got the call an hour later and it was true.
Mm.
And so now
Yeah.
what a gift it was to have that experience because sort of like maybe like doubting Thomas in the
Yes.
Catholic tradition, right? The
Yeah.
Apostle Thomas. I don't doubt my guidance. You know,
Mm.
talked about being in what being receptive
Yeah.
and being open and trusting, you know, just trusting life that when we ask for it and we are open and believe and, you know, let go of what the the struggle and the clinging, then the
Mm.
guidance is clear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So true. So true. Christine, there are two more things I want to talk about, but I also want to be respectful of your time. Do you have time? We may go
Mhm.
past an hour
Yes,
a little bit.
yes, I
Okay.
do have time. I do
Okay,
have,
great. All right. So those who know me know how
and I
much
have coffee.
you have coffee. All right. Good, good. That's coffee's important. So those who know me know how much I love Europe. and know that I lived in Madrid for 4 years, and it was a transformative time in my life, those 4 years. And so, and as much as I can, I try to go back to Europe at least once a year. But this year I may not make it, but it's okay. But behind me are the cliffs of Cornwall, and I had the honor to finally get to Cornwall. I'll say in this lifetime. Finally get to Cornwall last fall because a friend of mine lives there, and he's my hiking buddy. But anyway, even though we don't hike much, but anyway, or together. But anyway, I had an experience there that I don't have words for. But the feeling I had was, I've been here before. This all feels familiar. And as I'm walking the way of St. Michael's Way, um, I had this feeling inside, not only that I've been here before, but the landmarks I was seeing, this isn't right. This isn't supposed to be here. And then you have, and I'm going to say it, I'm going to say it anyway. You have the G7 summit that meets there regularly every year, and they've turned this sacred place into something political. There is an energy there in the UK that transcends us and that we are a part of it. But yet the politicians decide to put their power on top on this place. And I know you know exactly where I'm talking about because you've been there. But you also had a very similar experience in Iona in Scotland, and I was
Yes.
wondering if you could
Yeah.
share that with us a little bit.
Yes, I'm really happy. And I'm glad we have some extra time because I've been reading John Philip Newell's book
Oh, love that book. Yes.
and I heard him speak. I wasn't at the American Theater Association. I guess it was a recording. And I actually, when he spoke before the
Okay.
group, and I listened to that several times. And it, like you, it inspired me, right?
Yes.
The way you want to go back to Cornwall. My husband and I were planning a trip, and I said, I want to go to Scotland, and I want to
Mm.
go to the Isle of Skye, and I
Yes.
want to
Yep.
go to Iona.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't, I didn't really question it. I just knew I had to go, and
Yeah.
the trip fell into place. And in reading Newell's book, one of the things he writes about is in on Iona, and I would imagine in Cornwall too, the place between the earth and the sky
Yeah.
is closer. So the veil between the worlds is thinner. The veil
Yes.
between the invisible and visible is closer. And at those places like Iona and Cornwall, we can be in both worlds at the same time, which is actually what shamans are. They can move between worlds.
Mhm.
And when I and we were in Portree, I guess, or no, we were in Oban. So it took two ferries and a bus ride to get
Yeah.
from Oban out to Iona in the
Yes.
Hebrides. And it took most of the day. And when we got there, we were in the ruins of the Abbey. And
Oh.
the Abbey it's my understanding, and this is what I'm going to be writing about next. I think
Oh,
this is
cool.
my next book. Um, there was, that was a place they sent women that didn't really fit anywhere else.
Mm.
Rich princesses, perhaps, who had children out of wedlock.
Sure.
And so the world of women in this abbey. And
Mm.
I was thinking about the irony of that. You just mentioned, imposing power, right?
Yeah.
They sent women to probably one of the most beautiful places on the planet
Yeah.
to punish them, and they made this beautiful life together. But
Yes.
I had an experience, and I'm going to use the word portal because there
Okay.
was a spot I stood on,
Yeah.
right? And I actually went back there to see if I felt it because my husband's like, we have to get on the bus, we have to get on the ferry in an hour. If you want to go back there now. So I went back to the spot And I felt like time and place and especially time didn't exist. And I'm hoping I can find words for it now.
Mm.
I knew myself in as a woman in that abbey. I could
Yeah.
feel the women in that abbey. I felt myself now. I felt the beauty of the place. I felt sort of the crumbling of the words and ideas that we impose because we have to function in this world. But I also felt that the timeless knowing. Uh,
Mm.
and that's, I guess, as close as I can get in terms of words. And I
Yeah.
vowed to go back there. There's a piece in Newell's book where he talks about when people go to Iona, when the pilgrims have
Yeah.
gone to Iona, and they pray until the tears come.
Hmm.
And I think that's such a beautiful thing, that to just pray until you're clean and clear and connected,
Yeah.
perhaps with this timeless energy.
I've
Thank you
not
for
been,
asking
of
that.
course, of
I
course.
love talking about this. I have to write about it now.
Right, exactly. I took notes as I was I was hiking and I was taking notes while in real time, the experience was happening for me.
Wow.
I was putting them in my phone. Um, but I've not been to Iona yet. I so want to get there. It's another one of those things that I describe as a calling. I've
Right.
been to Scotland, but it was a very quick trip. Um, but yeah, Iona is another place I need to get to. And reading John Philip Newell's book, I felt even more connected.
Yes.
And if I were to just, when people ask me what religion are you, I'm like, well, I really don't have one, but if you want to put me in a box, I more connect with Celtic Christianity than anything. But I connect with the earth. The earth is my sanctuary.
Right.
The rocks behind me are my cathedral, you know.
Right.
So yeah, it and I would love would and I've met John Philip Newell. I don't know if you remember in that recording, he and I had a conversation. So
No, I'll look for that. I would love to
okay,
hear that.
if
You're
it's the
so
same,
lucky. Yeah.
yeah, if it's the same one we're talking
Yeah.
about, but I would, and friends of ours, Paula and Sam, they are
Yeah.
friends with John. I would love to have him on this podcast, and
Yeah.
maybe one day that will happen. But because he would also be able to bring language and breath to what we're talking about here. But I think there was
Yeah.
something else you were going to say. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I think that was it. When you talk about what religion are you? Like last night, I walked to the Shambhala Center, where is a beautiful Buddhist temple here, and that's in downtown Boulder, and I
Yeah.
meditate with friends who are, aligned with the Buddhist tradition.
Mm.
And I practice Reiki, and I say the Catholic prayers. I
Okay.
love I have a Virgin Mary statue right there. There's a beautiful line in the recovery community: take what you need and leave the rest.
Right, right. Yes,
I feel
that's
like
true.
I built this sort of recipe from all these different traditions, including the
Mhm.
Celtic tradition and the reverence for the earth that Teilhard so resonated with, right? And have built a life around that
Mm.
so that I can just trust my life and believe that the world really is going somewhere, especially being a grandmother and being
Mm.
70 years old. It can be a frightening time in the world to say, I don't understand how our country has changed, but I am that hopeful person. I
Yes.
do have, we are all light beings. I truly believe that we're all
Yeah.
filled with light, and that is our work, as Teilhard said, right? One of my favorite books of his is a little series of sermons he gave at weddings of family and friends. It's called On Happiness.
Okay.
And Teilhard said, we must add one stitch, no matter how small, to the magnificent tapestry of life.
Mm,
And I do take steps to have my voice heard at this time in the world, how I feel about being a citizen of the US. But I also very practically am working for a group called the Emergency Family Assistance Association, which is a 100-year-old charity started by women here in Boulder during
okay.
the Spanish flu to help and to help prevent homelessness. It's
Mhm.
really important, I think. That's when I heard that concept, and my husband and I heard that, not just help people who are homeless, but actually to take the next step before and prevent homelessness. So
Mm,
that makes me feel like that's one of my stitches that I'm adding to the magnificent tapestry of life and
yeah,
aligning with this larger energy by doing what I can in my community that's
sure.
within my realm.
Beautiful. Well, you're kind of taking us to the next question I have, the next part of the conversation, which is beautiful. So, you are an academic, and I was just thinking, as you were speaking, I shared with you there was a time I wanted to be an academic, but my brain doesn't think that way, and it's okay. But there have been so many academics because of being part of the Teilhard Association, so many academics that have been coming into my life and reaching out to me, which has been, I feel so honored. I really do. And I can actually have a conversation with you, with all of you, and I don't feel intimidated as I once did. And this is it's so beautiful. So anyway, say all that to say, when you were working on your doctorate, your no, not your doctorate, your doctorate.
Yeah,
That the
my doctoral
Zach,
dissertation.
thank you for the
Yeah.
language. I was struggling there for a minute. Yeah, your doctoral dissertation. You were you were talking about the internet, and there were so many like you as the internet was coming out. There were so many like you that were giving voice to what was about to happen or what was happening, and you are one of these people that even now can give voice to what's happening with our technology. And I was wondering if you could talk about that for a little bit. And I don't like to talk about what people do, as a profession, on in these conversations. But what you do is so relatable to what's going on, and also what we need to talk about. And so
Yeah.
I want to preface it also with even I remember even when as the internet was coming out, people were calling it evil. Oh, we don't need that. Well, how is it going to be it doesn't need to be a part of our lives because it was changed. But you were one of those people that were giving voice to the positivity of what was coming out of the internet. And so now what we have going on is technology has advanced. We
Mhm,
see AI.
mhm,
AI is coming onto the platform at an exponential rate. There's even conversation about synthetics. And also presences like Data from Star Trek, maybe one day being part of our society, and maybe perhaps they already are, we just don't know it yet. But you're one of these people that are giving voice to stop looking at the danger and look at how it's going to benefit us, but also how we can work with it, how it can be integrated into our lives and into our society. And I really think that technology is just an extension of us.
mhm,
And depending on how we use it, is an echo of where we are in our lives. So if we're at a place of fear and anger and manipulation, then the technology is going to reflect that. But if we're coming from a place of love,
mhm,
understanding, how
mhm.
to work together, it's going to come out in a completely different way.
Yeah.
And I also think that everything we are using has life. Everything around us is a presence. It doesn't have to breathe the same way we do. It doesn't have to speak the same way we do. But even the very windows that are behind you have life, and it is a presence. And I feel connected to even the windows that are behind you or the walls that, because again, it was all made from living material. So why
Right,
not? And even technology is made from living material. So why are we not calling it life?
right.
So anyway,
Oh,
I've gone a whole
yeah,
row
yeah.
there, but you are one
Um,
of these voices, and I want to bring voice to that.
Thank you. And as you're talking, I'm thinking too about how attached Teilhard was to rocks.
Oh
Right?
yes,
That
yes,
matter has energy. Matter, that's
yes.
what you're,
That's
the
exactly what I'm
argument you're
saying.
making is matter
Yes.
has energy. It was my destiny, quite honestly, to be at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, right?
Mm,
They call it Rensselaer, a small technological university in Troy, New York,
yeah,
in the early 90s when I was getting my master's degree. And I do write about this in the book.
yeah.
And it was the very early days of the internet. And with a handful of other graduate students, we hand coded HTML and used, at the time, the college's very advanced computers to
Okay.
produce an online magazine. And I had been working in public relations and journalism, and I was a writer and I had worked for newspapers, so I understood how profound this impact was, right? Instead of, I did a internship at the Norristown Times Herald in
Yeah.
Norristown, Pennsylvania, when I was at
Yep. Yep.
Villanova, and the editor took me down to the press room and showed me how newspapers were printed, and they were printed in boxes with little lines of type,
Yeah.
right? If
Yep.
you made
Yep.
a
Yep.
mistake, you had to take one out, you had to
Yeah.
count. A
Yeah. Yeah.
W was like a 3 and an I was like a 0.5. How much work and energy it took to
Yes.
produce a newspaper. And I could see that here we were, a handful of graduate students with really no money, just access to
Mhm.
computers and our time. And we were reaching across the world. I could see that that was revolutionary. One of the things, ideas I'd like to talk about in answering your
Yeah.
question is
Please.
the field of media ecology.
Okay.
I was really blessed during my academic career to have found the Media Ecology Association, which I feel is my intellectual home, who produced some of my articles about Teilhard are in the journal, in the Media Ecology Journal. Um, One of the most famous media ecologists is Marshall McLuhan, who was actually friends of and friendly and knew Teilhard, and they had a
Okay.
correspondence, right?
Okay.
And the media as environments, media as tools, right? That the media that we see are tools that we have created, and to become conscious and aware of that, the dynamic between us as humans using and bringing consciousness to these tools
Mm-hmm.
versus these tools, like as we often see in television shows. I mean, how many apocalyptic
Oh,
movies can be made
yeah.
about the world coming to an end and how we're going to survive it? I'm blown away by
Yeah.
uh, how much that narrative has really maybe taken over,
Yeah.
the country. The last movie about Superman was quite a relief because of his dog. And it was a
Okay.
sort of more of a human element. But um, you use the word tools. We have created these tools from our own intelligence
Yes.
and
Yes.
that, I think that's the piece that can't be forgotten, that
Yes.
it is artificial. When we say AI, we're saying artificial intelligence. We're not saying consciousness. And by consciousness, I mean our human consciousness, but also I believe in a consciousness larger than
Yes.
what humanity possesses on the earth.
Yes.
And I do make a small reference in the book to Edgar Mitchell and the Institute for Noetic Science. But in terms of consciousness, Mitchell had a spiritual experience. Mitchell was an astronaut in one of the Apollo missions, and on the way back from the moon, he had a spiritual experience
Yes.
and came back to Earth and said, I'm an astronaut and a scientist, and I'm going to prove this scientifically now. And so
Yeah.
now, and I don't know how many years old the Institute of Noetic Sciences, probably 20 or whatever,
Yeah.
there is scientific proof for this larger sense of consciousness.
Yes.
So, and just like, bringing it down into what we're going to do with the rest of our day, to bring that same energy and that, Teilhard's Omega, the evolutionary power of love, bringing that to these tools that we have we have the potential to make life better on this earth for
Yeah.
everyone. And I do believe that artificial intelligence can help us do that because it will free us just like it did, the internet and technology freed pressmen and,
Mm.
newspaper delivery trucks from delivering the news in on paper, right? We can be freed from some of the tedious aspects of human existence.
Every
And I
time
didn't,
there's, yeah,
wow,
sorry.
where did that came from?
But
Thank you for the
every,
question.
of course, every time there's change in our society, though, especially in terms of technology, we have to condemn it, like we do with one another from our different political circles or our different religious circles. And it's like, why is that the first place we go to? And we're doing it unconsciously because that's the way
Mm.
we've been programmed. But if we could just take a moment and just stop, breathe, and listen, there's something else going on here. But we have to
Mhm.
be willing to get out of our own way. Have to be willing to put away our criticisms, our judgments, and our beliefs of what life should be.
Right.
Because it's in this diversity where that has been created for us where we find unity. We find unity in our diversity and in our differences, not in our separateness,
Yes.
because the separateness is an illusion. But yeah, where was I going with this? Yeah, you were talking about the apocalyptic movies, how that it's become so it's profitable.
Mhm.
But yet I don't think that's where our society is headed.
Right.
Despite all the changes that are happening and despite all the fear and the anger, I don't think that's where we're heading. I think we are headed to something evolutionary for all of us, not just humanity. And and then we're also seeing these, gloom and doom movies coming out with AI. Well, AI is going to take over, AI is going to do this, and AI it could kill us and do depending on how we treat it though.
Right.
Depending on how we want to be in relationship with it,
Right.
that's going to be the difference. And you're one of these voices that's
Thank
getting
you.
us to to say everything I just said. So,
Yeah, thank you. One of the ways I live this and, and live just trusting life is to pay really close attention to energy, to how I feel as an
yes.
energetic being. There's an expression, and we talked about it. I took a class from the Sacred Stream in Power Retrieval in the Middle World this past weekend, and there's an expression called power fill. So we
Okay.
fill ourselves up with a power that's bigger than us, with the perhaps transcendent energy. And this, I'm greatly simplifying this, and hopefully
Yeah.
people wouldn't think I'm being inaccurate, but feeling that internal connection ourselves so that when we're confronted with different, perhaps lower energies, conflict, that we have a place to go, that we can
Yeah.
go inside and use that energy, those energies you felt at Cornwall, that I felt at Iona,
Yeah.
that um, Newell and Teilhard write about, right? That earth energy, that so when we're confronted with something that's different than that, we have the power. We have the power of choice. I believe we're always in choice, but it's about energy and not allowing ourselves, right? Under to be I don't want to say taken over, but those are the words that first came out, to be intimidated or even injured or um, having our freedom be taken away by some of these thoughts and some of these conflicts.
Yeah. Absolutely. So this leads me to an actual question then too. Where do you see humanity going?
Wow, that is an interesting question.
I asked John this question too, but he answered it in his own way, which was really cool. I think it's a great question for you too, with based on the work
Um,
that you do.
yeah. Um, we talked earlier about the beauty of walking with a cane, and
Yes.
I have a new hip, and during my recovery, I watched more television than I usually might. And I watched a beautiful PBS documentary called A Brief History of the Future.
Okay.
And there were a whole series of promising um, innovations around the world. A garbage dump being made into a ski slope, and I believe it was in Amsterdam, um, that where different in the Netherlands, people living on boats in community
Mhm.
together. I do believe that there is a shift happening,
Mhm.
that, as people come to understand their individual power and the power of the collective, when we are unified for a higher purpose, when we are pointed, we know we're going somewhere, and that somewhere is evolving to love, evolving in love, then we each have our marching orders. Right, we're going to pick up that one stitch that Teilhard talked about and do it and weave a more beautiful planet for ourselves.
Yeah.
I am committed to doing that as a grandmother. I know on a spiritual, philosophical realm, I want, the world to be better for my grandchildren. I also practically want to help my son and daughter-in-law raise these beautiful beings,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes that means just getting in the car and driving there and babysitting. It
Yeah.
doesn't always mean some lofty big thought,
Yes.
right? Like writing a book. It says
Yeah. Yeah.
embrace the all and manifest ease, guys.
Yeah.
Doesn't always mean that. It can mean the little thing too. So if I believe that we are headed somewhere wonderful,
Yeah.
and the way we get there is by just being our best selves in this,
Yes.
looking up towards the light and knowing, feeling, not just knowing, but feeling and living this connection to each other.
Yeah. Absolutely. Beautiful. Beautiful. As we're getting close to the end here, my surprise question. Well, it kind of surprises for you because you've seen the episodes, but what is your biggest struggle, Christine?
Yeah, I have listened, so I have had a chance and I've actually listened to a lot of them when I'm working out in the gym. So
Okay.
yeah, it's given me a lot of time. My biggest struggle is coming from my insides,
Mm,
living from the inside and not from the outside, and not react, not um, to be in reaction mode, to get to read something or see something or watch something and get scared and then start acting and moving from that place, bringing
mm,
my energy into trying to make something different versus maybe being in a situation that's uncomfortable, but being inner resourced first and
mm,
being, when possible, calm and collected and moving through that situation with peace and calm.
mm.
And that's, I struggle, and I'm glad you use the word struggle because it is a struggle. I am a human being, a spiritual being having a human experience. I am human. I am 70 years old, right? There's all those things about being in a 70-year-old body and being in community with other people and
Yeah.
being, especially, being in a country where it's difficult for people to be open-minded about people who believe differently.
Mhm.
I think that would be the thing I would be the most afraid of becoming closed-minded.
Okay.
I struggle with staying open-minded, right?
Mm,
And
yeah.
oh, you're the closed-minded one. I'm the open-minded one. And
Yeah.
being in judgment.
Yeah.
I struggle with not being judgmental.
Mm, wow. Thank you for being that vulnerable with us,
Thank you.
sharing that. Beautiful. You mentioned Teilhard's quote again, and I always fumble over it because not because I don't have it memorized, but because I think he's half right. And I
Uh,
wish he was here to have that conversation. I would love to have that conversation with him because not only do I think say the quote again so I don't mess it up, please.
we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
And I think we are also humans having a spiritual experience. I don't think it's
Yes,
either or. I think it's both.
both. Right,
I think
right.
it's both. And even in our struggles, it's both.
Yes. And
Our s-
perhaps especially in our struggles, it's both.
exactly.
And it's by
Exactly.
embracing that and not fighting against
Yeah.
it, especially making ourselves wrong
Yes.
because we are struggling. Oh, I'm struggling, so there's something wrong.
Yeah. The struggles help us remember who and what we are. It's not wrong, it's not good or bad, it's part of the experience. And it's a great part of the experience to help us remember who and what we are. And to
Exactly.
be the people that we are, the presences that we want to be
Right,
with ourselves and with each other.
right.
So, oh, Christine, this has
Been
been
fun.
amazing. It's been fun. I definitely want to have you back when you write that other book. That
Thank
that
you.
would be a joy. I'm going to put all your information in the show notes if that's okay. If people want to get a hold of you, but also read your
Right.
book, you're going to send me that link as well, so I can put that on there. But this has been an utter joy, and I'm
Thank you.
so glad
Thank
we
you.
got to do this. So let's, as I do in every episode, will you join us in the breath? And then I will bring us back around. So as we come back together and open our eyes, may we remember that we are remembered, we are loved, and we belong. We all matter. Christine, is there anything else you'd like to say to us before I close us out?
Namaste.
Namaste.
I see your light.
This has been a Pneuma conversation. Thank you for sharing in the breath. Together, we've remembered a little more of what it means to be human. Until next time, breathe.